Hi, I'm Hal, and I'm here to talk to you about 4-H woodworking tips. Here in front of me I have three different measuring instruments. This is a tape measure, this is a yardstick, and this is a metal ruler. It has also some metric on it. The yardsticks are very good for crude measurements. If you're wanting to kind of guess how long you want your boards, needing boards at the lumberyard or whatever. The accuracy of a yardstick is not completely accurate. If you notice there's a mark here, and if you line these up perfectly with this other measure here, the inch mark is probably off. I'm going to put a board up there to get them together. And you see the inch mark is right there, and you see it's not the same as that. But if you're measuring something to see if it's going to be long enough to do a project, you're just measuring up some board feet, it's good to use one for that. And then when you start doing accurate cuts, you want a more accurate measure. Another good instrument is a tape measure because it's easier to carry than a yardstick, because you can roll it up and it's gone. And then pull it back out, and there it is. When you're measuring the art with a tape measure has a little tab on the end that moves back and forth. And that is so that when you measure up against a wall, for instance, it pushes in to measure from the wall. But if you're measuring a board from the other side, you pull that little tab out. And what it does is it allows for the difference in the width of that little tab right there on the end, the hook part. Now let's get into the meat of measuring. And a yardstick is very good for showing you the different marks to start with. First of all, you have the longer marks, which are the inch, the 2-inch, 3-inch, and 4-inch, and so forth. But you got marks in between those. And the next longest mark is halfway in between the inch marks, which is the next longest one. Here's a half, half, half. So when you're measuring, two halves make a whole. You measure from here to there is 1, 2. 1, 2. Makes a whole. The next mark between the half marks is a quarter mark, and it's halfway in between the half-inch marks. This is a quarter, and there's 4 of those. So you measure from one here, from this inch mark here, you go 1/4, 1/2 or 2/4, 3/4, and then 4/4 or 1. The next mark is halfway in between that, which is 1/8 inch. So you start out, you got 1/8, 1/4, which is 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, which is 1/2, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, 8/8, or 1 whole mark. This is good. These are important to know where your board length is when you're measuring a board, measuring the length of a board. Now we'll go to a tape measure, and it has a lot of marks right here to start with. And if we move this tape measure down past the 12-inch mark, and we'll start with a 13 so we don't have that black arrow in our way, you'll notice that there are another mark in between the 1/8 marks. Here's the half mark, here's the quarter mark, here's the 1/8 mark, and then you have a 16th mark. And so you start out 1/16, 2 or 1/8. It'll be 2/16. You got 3/16, 1/4, 5/16, 3/8, 7/16, half, and so forth. 16 marks between these inch marks. You can even go more accurate, and we'll move it back to here, and you can see, and it's hard to see, but you have 32nd inch marks right in between the 16ths. And that means there's 32 marks between this inch mark and this inch mark. Halfway in between is 16/32, or 1/2. 1/4 is 8/32, or 1/2. There's 8 marks between here and the 1/4, 16 between the inch mark and the halfway mark. This measure here does the same thing, except it's got some metric on the other side, and those are measured in tens. And between all of these numbers is 10 marks, each one of these. And those are millimeters, and each one of these numbers are centimeters. When you measure a board, and I'm going to use the tape measure, I'll slide those out of the way, and I'm measuring a board, you want to get accuracy on it. And I'll stick it right here in the middle. And this one, when I'm looking at it, it looks like it's 4 and 7/30 seconds. Just under the 4th inch mark, which would be 8/30 seconds. But you see, if you don't get it straight across, it can be even longer than 4 1/4. When you look right here. So you want to make sure you get it straight across the board. Also, you want to check it at each side, because it could be different. If it's slightly out of square, it can be a different measurement at different sides of the board. These are things that are important when you go to make a project, because accurate measure makes an accurate project. And the pieces fit together a whole lot better when they're measured accurately and cut accurately. And it starts with measuring.